Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris. I am still your host, Professor Chris, and the author of Getting the Most Out of Your College Experience. Actually, today's topic is right from here. Well, part of it is right from here, so I might refer to it. But today, we're actually talking about college pregnancies. And as I mentioned from the last episode, it was an idea that I had as I was wishing everybody happy Father's Day, happy Mother's Day, just kind of remembering and reflecting on some of my students who actually were bringing their little ones to school, some who were actually pregnant while in school. So I said, you know what, let's do a little segment on this topic here. I'm going to do this part one, and the reason being that what I'm about to talk about, my statistical data for today's discussion, is really limited to kind of my own experience, right? In part two, I'll get a little more details as to college pregnancies across campuses. We'll look at all the statistics, what have you. But today, I just kind of want to focus on my experience with my students, my situation. So statistical data on that is very, very small. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It happens all the time. So I'm going to break this down into the three situations that I've dealt with my students. Okay. So we're going to call situation one, no oops. That means there was no if and buts with the pregnancy. It was planned. It was meant to happen. Two married people have decided to have a child, right? So there's no surprises, no oops. So that's one, no oops. The second one is going to be what I call just a little oops, right? Just a little oops, meaning we're married, we have the right to have children, but the timing wasn't quite right? So just a little oops. Again, there's a support system there. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? The third one is what I'm going to refer to as big oops. Ooh, oh, what? Oops, right? I've dealt with that. So let's get right to it. By the way, in each of these situations, right, a supporting system is required. So the first oops, what I'm referring to as the first one is no oops. Yes, I've had adults in my classroom who are expecting. And, we'll have a little conversation with me and say, Professor Chris, I'm very excited. My husband and I are very excited. We're about to have our first child, or we're excited to have our second child. I'm 2 months in, I'm taking your classes. There's going to be some appointments that I have to attend. And this is very important, right? You're having this discussion very early. Seen that, okay? No problem. Work with the students. Very excited for them as well. So now, let's have the conversation. Let's look at some timing and let's see what we could do. Usually, the plan in which will apply to all three situations is the same. Start having the conversation very, very early. You know where you are. You know the time that's going to take. So you're talking to professors because, again, 3 months, 6 months, you know what classes you're going to be taking. So you're going to start that planning early. Again, this discussion, this planning starts very early for everyone, okay? All right, so first situation, no oops, we're having that discussion. Okay, second situation, little oops, meaning, again, married couples are excited to have a child, but not quite the time they were hoping this will happen. There's nothing really to, end the world about. It's also the same discussion. First, that couple need to realize that, yes, it might have been a little oops, but how do we turn this into a bundle of joy, right? After all, it's a baby, and we should be excited about that. So timing might not be right, but we can work around this here. So a conversation is had. There is still a support system. You got your spouse there to kind of help you. You're having a discussion, same thing. This discussion is brought forth with the advisors, with the teachers, what classes you're taking, so you start that planning immediately, just as you are planning your appointments with your doctor as you're preparing for the baby. It's the same way you need to start having that conversation, all right, with your advisors, with your mentors, so you can start that planning. Okay, the third one, big oops. If we go back to this guy here, I start talking about some of the situations that you get yourself into that could also lead to big oops. Meaning we're having the parties, we're drunk, we're smoking, we're doing everything else, and we're just having fun. And usually, again, for the guys, and I've touched on this here, guys, be very, very careful, because at that point, everybody is vulnerable. And sometimes we've even had rape situations, so be very, very careful. Is it consensual? You have to have the discussion. But yes, I have had a situation where, of course, adults are having sex and we're having big oops. One big one that I actually discuss in this book is the false alarm situation, right? And we say thank God, because again, these are two parties that were not ready. But when it happens, and I want to spend a lot of time talking about this, when it happens, okay, you're adults. You all tell me you're adults. You're 20, 22, 24, okay? So we have to deal with the situation as adults. My belief system is that the first solution should not be we're getting rid of this baby, okay? For some reason, with my students, that's always the very first solution or first option. No, a discussion needs to be had. The challenge with this situation is a support system where no oops and little oops have, right? These are people that are married, maybe timing is not right, but as the least of their problem, they're still gonna have support. In this situation, there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had. Okay, there's the big oops. Sadly, in one of the situations that I'm reflecting back on, is two people who just met at a party, really don't know each other, and we're having big oops. What do we do? Again, discussion needs to be had. The next steps, we'll talk about that later, but the first thing is not going to be, oh, my world is going to end. There is a discussion that needs to be had. Yes, as you're having discussion and you're having appointments with your doctors, and maybe there's a medical emergency involved to do whatever you have to do, okay? We deal with that later. But the first thing should not be we're getting rid of this baby. Okay, the next step is be careful of your own friends. When we have big oops, there's a lot that happens. First of all, you need to have this discussion. In my case, two that I remember very well, the students actually came to my office to confide in me, they trust in me, and we had a discussion. Professor Chris, we were drunk, we were at a party, and this happened. What should I do? Okay? We'll have the first conversation. Now, if there are parents involved, we need to see how we broach this topic. It's a big, big topic, right? So we're getting parents involved because the first thing we need to do is to make sure we have that support system. Very, very important. This is not anything that both, by the way, sometimes the guys think, oh, they're getting a pass out of the situation. No, it takes two. So yes, now it will take two to tango as well. And some of the guys, I've also seen them in this situation, are very, very distraught. So this is not just the female, the woman, the ladies situation only. So there is a discussion that needs to be had. First discussion is to make sure you have a support system so that one person you could trust. Again, there are parents involved. Usually that's the best way to go. Yes, they might get angry, but they will provide the best solution to the situation. Once you finish with that, if it's your boyfriend, you're having that discussion with them as well. What do you all want to do? My preference, again, solution is not, hey, we're getting rid of this, our lives are going to be destroyed. No, that is not the best option. There are different ways, but start having that conversation, okay? Once you're having that conversation, then now you come back to the school, the institution. Again, you're talking to your advisors, just like the first two situations. No oops, little oops, support system, timetable, time management. Now that's where you are as well with this discussion. You're talking with your instructors. Don't worry about your friends. Oh, I'm going to be showing. What am I going to do? I'm gonna be so embarrassed, what a disgrace. No, you are an adult and you know how to deal with that. So the less you tell your friends about the situation, the better it is for you to deal with your stresses in this situation, okay? All right, so I kind of went through this very quickly. I just wanted to make this part 1, okay? College pregnancies, part 1. I'll get in a little more detailed, but for this episode, these 3 situations, the ones that I've dealt with, if you find yourself in these 3 situations, remember 2 things out of this episode. Number 1 is to make sure you have the support system. And that support system, again, if you're married, no problem, you have that support. If you're not married, that is number 3. Big oops, then usually I suggest talk to your parents. That's always going to be your best support. Once you start having that discussion, academically, your school is not going to end. I'm going to touch a little more on this here in part 2 as to maternity leave and how institutions deal with this situation, so you don't feel like, oh, your life is ended or your academic journey has ended. No, there are provisions, and institutions make all these provisions available for you because it is part of life and we have to prepare for it. Okay? At the end of the day, in whatever situation is, it is a bundle of joy. Okay. All right. So there you have it. Again, this was part of the series of real cases, real students, right? Real students and the real cases, college pregnancies that they're going to deal with. I'm here for you. I'm really, really here for you. Like I said, these situations, it's been an honor to have dealt with this so I could have to experience it, to provide some solutions to my students. So, to wrap up, my beer to you, right? My beer to you, balance, exercise, eat well, relax. I will see you on the next episode of Let's Talk Ed, Professor Chris, real cases, real students, college pregnancy, part 2. This is the book that I wished I had before going to college. And it's also the book I hope I had while I was in college. Get a copy of Getting the Most Out of Your College Experience now. You can get it online at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, iTunes, and Google Play. If you want a signed copy, you can go to my website at www.letustalked.com. Get your copy and let's continue to talk ed. Thank you.